really a pleasure to be here amidst such a good, learned, and well-known panelist. What we are discussing today is measuring impacts to benchmarking of CSR projects going beyond compliance. I have been to few sessions over these 2 days. I find a disconnect between how we started the whole CSR thing in India. Luckily or unluckily, I have been a part of it. When we started in 2013, the idea was name or shame. Let corporates do it. Otherwise, we pinpoint to them. We raise a finger so as they do a better work. From there, in another 3 years, about 8% corporates did not do CSR, and about 11% did more than 2%. There are examples where companies are making loss constantly and doing more and more CSR, which means CSR makes a business sense. That has been proved over the period of time. But at the same time, the law said either comply with it or explain. Explain in your annual report to your board of directors, in your annual general meeting, why you could not do it. Which means you have to be on the public platform, public domain, and explain why you could not do it. But during the COVID, lot of things changed. Corporates came forward, spent more than 7,756 crores on Corona, part of it to PM Care Fund, and 3,319 crores on Corona-related activities. And then 22nd January 2021, we had a new set of rules which made CSR mandatory. It was also important to note that for top 1,000 companies which had to report on business responsibility report from next year onwards is mandatory. This year is voluntary to report on business responsibility and sustainability reporting, which as a group, what we have done is we have taken care of all the reportings, right from GRI, sustainability to integrated reporting. And this has to be on two websites basically. First, on the MCA 21, and then on the company website also. So the twice the reporting. With this, a question comes. I call it compliance. Now CSR is a matter of compliance. Whether you like it or not like it, that was not the spirit when we started. When we started, idea was, let the companies do it. And another thing which has been happening is, I see news every day. As a CSR professional, I feel very happy because CSR is mentioned somewhere, sometime, every day in somewhere you get a mention for CSR. To the extent last week, one of the ruling party MPs had brought forward a bill saying that 25% of the 2% should be spent on keeping the monuments. And there has been a lot of debate. I will not go into that. The point I want to make it is in the news. And anything which we find, right from the yesterday we had the flag day, everything is put on CSR. If you don't get money, you get money from CSR. There are two types of pressures. We generally talk about two things. We talk about business. 2019 budget, 21%, 21 paisa out of 1 rupee came from corporate tax. That shows the importance, which is not given to in India to the companies. Then comes the whole question of a purpose. What we are talking about in CSR or responsible business is about a purpose. Business must have a purpose also. Without a purpose, like say 50 years back, out of the 100 companies, only 25 exist at this point of time. Where have other 75 gone? That's where this comes whole question of purpose. Then comes the profit. Please remember one thing. When we talk about 2% CSR, this 2% comes from the profit. Whether you like it or you don't like it, profit is there, that's why CSR is there. And then whole question of doing it in a way that it helps the business. Lot of especially talk about these days from NGOs about ethics, about transparency, about FCRA. Lot of things complicate the whole matter. At the heart of it is very simple. We are doing something good to be good. I'm very lucky to have such a great panel. And a lot of talk has been going on about sustainable development goals. We are a signatory out of the 169 countries. Niti Aayog has been given this responsibility. 2 months back, they came out with their third annual report, which gives a very good picture. Lot of states improving. And that's also what we are also incorporating in the CSR also. I have with me Urvashi ji. She is with the Niti Aayog. We are very lucky to have her. We will like to listen from her. When I make a statement like say, in CSR it's very difficult to comply with SDGs. What's your take on it? And how do you inform us that it's important? Over to you, Urvashi ji.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
I have just switched off my video because sometimes the audio quality gets affected. I'll switch it back on. But yes, thank you first of all for this question. And it's great to be connected again through this platform. I know we have connected in the past as well. And I think you put out some very pertinent issues in the context setting. And I think what I would like to say is just, 2, 3 sort of key points here. I think one is that you are right that in terms of CSR, there has been sort of this whole evolution or journey that we have seen in terms of, and I think that journey is still on. I don't think we have reached, where we would perhaps ideally want to be or even close to that. So I think that's important that the journey is still on in terms of, CSR, the way we are thinking about the different frameworks or the compliance versus impact, all of that. So I think that journey is still evolving. But I think it's true that one aspect we started off from sort of, I would say, the very basics that we at least want a certain bare minimum spending to be happening, certain compliance to be happening. But I think the thinking is now moving very much beyond that, to see that how do we use CSR very strategically in the overall development work that we are doing. And I think this is very important, and there are a couple of examples I'll talk about where we've tried to use specific initiatives to do this. So what I mean by this is that not looking at CSR spending or CSR projects in isolation, but really seeing where do they fit alongside the different government programs, alongside what civil society is doing, what other types of stakeholders are doing, because ultimately SDGs also is about all these different stakeholders really coming together and sort of multiplying their impact rather than just looking at it as, a 1+1. So I think that whole shift in thinking, first of all, I think is a very important and much needed one. So the couple of specific examples I would give is, one, the Swachh Bharat mission, we actually set up a Swachh Bharat Kosh, which was precisely the idea was to try and leverage some CSR funding specifically for the Swachh Bharat mission, which was of course a very important and remains a very important program of the government, and really sort of a mass movement is the way the Prime Minister envisages it and positions it. So it's something much bigger than just any other government program or scheme. So there a separate mechanism was set up that how do we actually channelize CSR funding. Then if we look at the aspirational districts program, which is also something that Niti Aayog is involved with, various other ministries are involved, and of course all the states and districts. There again, what we're trying to do is how do we use CSR to really help us address some of the challenges that we face in these districts. So there's already certain government programs being implemented. There's already civil society doing some work. Now, how do we also bring in CSR to strategically either address areas where there are gaps or help us with certain initiatives which might not be getting addressed through the other channels. So I think this whole shift, thinking has shifted towards looking at it much more holistically, looking at it where CSR fits into the bigger picture. And the other point I would make, and I'll close with that, is that also how do different types of CSR projects come together? So looking at it at a sectoral level, for instance, if we look at health or we look at education, there might be different interests that corporates might have within these broader sectors. Somebody might be more interested in investing in capacity building or in training or in awareness creation. Others might be more interested in investing in infrastructure creation. So how do we bring that together? Because ultimately a lot of this is complementary. A lot of this supplements, each other rather than it sort of, being in any sort of competition, really speaking. So how, I think those are the two main sort of shifts in thinking where, at least in the government, I see some movement in this direction. But as I said, it's a very much an evolving and work in progress sort of space. And I think there's a lot more that will happen that, which will make our whole the way we implement our whole CSR initiatives, we measure, we monitor, we assess impact, we think of how they contribute to SDGs. I think all of this will become much more sophisticated, much more refined. But there are certainly some shifts that I see in mindset, in terms of thinking of it at scale, thinking of the multiplier effect of CSR, thinking of how everything joins together under the SDGs, rather than looking at it in silos. So just wanted to share some of these thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Urvashi. You have put it beautifully that this is a work in progress. I fully agree with that. But I have seen one person working very closely and always enjoy talking to him. He is Mr. Ashwani. Ashwani ji, today my question to you is not to you as a person. I know you are a very nice person. Your idea about development are very different, very innovative. Today, my question is to your chair. As CEO of JSW Foundation, what has happened when I say we have moved from comply to explain? Now we have a paradigm where it's either comply or pay penalty. As a company, we can fine you 1 crore. As an officer, we can fine you 2 lakh each officer. And if you don't do, and the whole paradigm is changing, especially with the type of things we deal with, especially with the politicians. I won't name them. They say कि वो मेरे घर के मेरे वहाँ पे रोड नहीं है, आप रोड बना दीजिए, यहाँ पे ये नहीं है, वो बना दीजिए. And then we are talking about reporting in public domain through business sustainability and responsibility reporting. So you don't have to do as a CEO reporting once, you have to do it many times now. And to many stakeholders, what Urvashi also pointed out, there are many stakeholders. So हम सब आपकी टांग खींचने के लिए बैठे हुए हैं. I'm talking as a CEO. My question to you is, I want to know from you, how do you tackle such a situation?
Thank you, Dr. Upadhyay. I think You already, laid down the ground for me to be instigated and, speak out my heart. But I know there are a lot many things which cannot be said, but need to be felt. And I appreciate that you felt those concerns. I think the challenge with any regulation is that all said and done, it's a regulation. And the moment it becomes a regulation, then that regulation creates a whole range of issues around that. Way back when I used to work with IFC, we used to always measure programs. We used to measure policies on the basis of what is the cost of regulation, what is the cost of execution for whom that regulation has been put in place, and what are the allied costs of that regulation per se. And does the overall polity, does the overall society or the government or the nation in question actually benefits out of that or not? What was the intended objective of that regulation? So I would like to pick up a clue from what you said in the beginning, that the whole philosophy evolved from the idea of voluntary guidelines and voluntary disclosure. And from voluntary disclosure, we have come to a stage where there are penal provisions for non-compliance on CSR. And add to it the flavor that while this is guided by Government of India as Ministry of Corporate Affairs, we have a large number of state CSR authorities also which have come up, which again are regulatory bodies. I mean, the officials are sitting there and they certainly can regulate and they can certainly administer a lot of things on behalf of the Government of India or government of that particular state. So for sure, I would not mince my words in saying that it only creates a lot of confusion, duplication of reporting. But yes, as corporates, as responsible corporates, we are supposed to comply with that. But what has happened is, see, there are good things and bad things about a regulation. What has happened because of CSR being regulated is that it has brought on a certain kind of a rigor and standard, and on which I think you also alluded to, that today, thankfully, CSR is mainstream and people are talking about CSR. So that's one advantage, that it has taken traction inside the business lexicon. The boards are talking about CSR. They want to demonstrate and they want to evaluate and they want to implement. And they want to report back as to what they have done as a responsible corporate citizen. So to that extent, this is fine. And when it comes to, but I think the paradigmic shift, which really is going to unlock the true potential of CSR, is that while we believe that, government programs or government mechanisms need to be in the forefront, and CSR should be contributing to it or filling the gaps for that. If we want to do the same things again and again, and we do not want to bring in a paradigmic change, I think the nation is going to suffer. What it basically, and I've been saying it at the cost of being provocative, is that for several years we have looked at public institutions leading the development process. It's high time that rather than looking at CSR only as another pot of money, let CSR be looked at the rigor, the capabilities, the innovation potential that the private sector brings onto the table, be looked at from a fresh lens, with them becoming the drivers of developmental change in the locations. I every time tell my CSR teams at any location that, listen, governments would change, government officials may get transferred, politicians will also, come and go, NGOs will be guided by their mandate and the resources that they get from the donors, but we are going to be present in those particular locations for perpetuity. And so therefore it is in our business interest to, lead it from the front and try that convening, position by which we can bring in resources and make sure that our resources added with the other convergence is going to create that impact, is going to, bring that faster change of, pace of development, which is then going to bring in the change. Otherwise, we will continue to do so many programs year after year. We will give them fancy new names. We'll call them as new schemes, but things will still not change. So to me, I think that's the key crux. And now with this business reporting, again, sustainability reporting, I was looking at the first draft, which has come up as a guideline, and I was looking at the exhaustive guidelines that has been given, the template that is there. It again is going to take away the fun. I'm using it in a loose sense. See, any business, any enterprise excels in what? Doing things differently, having something, some thing under their sleeve, which makes them different from the others. The way we operate our business makes us different from the way other players in the same sector do their business. And it is this competition, it is this innovation, which therefore drives us, and the bar of excellence keeps on going up for the sector. That's how the sector gets, elevated. If everything becomes so clearly written, I was just going through some of the, things that they're asking. It takes away the great fun of, having that so-called, business secret. Well, nothing is a secret today in today's world, but the point is that making it so straight-jacketed, so out there in the open, that it does not create that opportunity for people to excel and compete with each other. So if reporting for sustainability also becomes like a mandatory thing today, when a company writes a sustainability report, we are into Dow Jones Index now. We do a lot of we do GRI reporting and the integrated reporting and whatnot. And for all the 14 odd group companies, we are a part and parcel of it. We take pride in a specific program for a specific context for a specific company. So there is a granularity to what we are doing with reference to the context. The moment it becomes a straight-jacketed compliance report, which has to go, it would be a cut and paste. When you look at it, it's a annual report of any company which needs to be repackaged as a business sustainability and whatever report. It takes away the fun. To me, it simply takes away the fun. I mean, what I would be writing there, I am fully aware that this is going to be now looked at from only a compliance lens. And I think that is a big, bottleneck. So we may come up with new schemes, new policies or frameworks till this paradigmic shift. And I think Urvashi did mention upon SDGs, and you also said that SDGs cannot be perhaps directly linked to CSR. They certainly can. We as a foundation do that deliberately, even if it's a like 0.3 times 0 after the decimal 1% of the overall contribution that you make. But yet again, it is aligned. And it can be aligned. But the problem is, do we really take everybody into that fold or not? Do we want to take everybody into that fold to, coalesce and converge the resources? Or do we do that only for the sake of compliance? The over dependence upon compliance, I think, has created a barrier to collaboration. Everybody has to comply, so everybody just complies. The moment we unlock the potential of people to collaborate, do things more innovatively, maybe at a lesser cost, maybe in different geographies, I think it will open up a lot of opportunities. I'll stop at that right now.
Thank you, Ashwani. I can go on for hours to listen to you. The way you put things, it really appeals to me. But I like your idea that it's taking out some fun out of it. And especially, I stayed for 4 years in Bastar with tribals. That was the period I learned the most. The first thing I learned from them is why we are all after all those things. Life is very simple otherwise. For them, they are happy. But they have nothing. I had everything. That's where I realized that working with communities becomes very important. And I have with me Mr. Rochak, who has been working with communities for long in different locations and taking care of them. Rochak, how does this whole thing about compliance? Now, we are busy more with reporting and all, as Ashwani ji also pointed out, Urvashi also pointed out, SDGs se leke, we have till BRSR and all. So how do you take care of community needs, working with community, and as Urvashi used the word stakeholders? How do you take care of that? Over to you, Rochak.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you, CSR Walks, for providing this opportunity for interaction. As you rightly said, I'll talk more on basis of community perception and how compliance goes with them. How do they understand compliance? What we understand, or what other stakeholders understand about compliances and all. See, what with the coming of CSR law in 2013-14, somewhere like in community, it all started like because I was always based in near to plant manufacturing locations. So it was very positively taken by community like that. Now it's compulsory for all corporate to make certain expenditure on development of the people surrounding their factories, etc. And slowly in 1 or 2 or 3 years of time it came to their understanding like what they are thinking about, that's not happening like ठीक है अगर उनको as a thought came like this is a solution of all problems. But what we understand or what the CSR understand, we have a certain amount of money for that. Projects are made like every company defined CSR pillars. Under the pillars, various buckets are there, like what we'll do in livelihood, what we'll do for environment, or what we'll do for social infrastructure, education, etc. So development for all stakeholders, including community varies in community perspective. So certainly it's a feeling started coming that हम जो चाहते हैं वो नहीं हो रहा है, और things are not happening as per our liking. And similar kind of comments started coming with the local politicians or collector's office or state office, wherever you go for the meetings with any corporate, same kind of feedback started coming. So this was all ongoing. Companies tried to put best things over there, how to address the problem. So some stakeholder mapping and interaction with the stakeholder, how projects should be planned, all this was done. So normally things came to align, and some good projects started being implemented in the corporates where I was part of it, and some good work started happening. Only one thing was to explain and engage people to understand that development is a very big phenomena, and CSR cannot address everything. We can address 1, 2, 3, and we should move forward with this for 3 year, 4 year, 5 year of time. This was well going since 2020. Early 2020, there were major amendment in the rules and law. Now this became more stringent now, and even more a point for discussion in the boardroom also, because now in a given period of time, like 1 year or 1.5 years, you need to spend X amount of money. Otherwise, you need to transfer or penalty, what you talked about. So in this whole process, see, one thing as sir also, Ashwani sir also told, this is very good regulatory. This came into the mainstream. Everything is aligned. People are there to execute the project. But to make certain compliances, you need to do a speedy spending also. Like in a 1 year of time, you need to spend X amount of money. Now here, as a development professional, certain processes are missed. Like when we engage the community, there are a time period, 3 months, 6 months for community awareness, then engaging them, then building the project. Then by third or fourth year of time, you will have the some good impact. Then here because of these compliances, some of these processes are meant to be missed, or it is missed because you need to do. Then again, the CSR pillars and designing of the project, like good big infrastructure related project, you may spend 50 lakhs, 70 lakhs, 60 lakhs, but motivating a colostrum feeding to a mother or making awareness, just you need 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. So one aspect is behavior change, and one aspect is expenditure and big project. So somewhere people started running before the big project, like because you need to spend the money. This is one drawback, or you say, or we need to understand how to make compliance, because at the end of the year you need to do the compliance, because boardroom will also not be happy, government will also not be happy. So this is a kind of catchy situation for the professionals. This is one what I understand. So I only thought of discussing it. Other important aspect is how everybody understands. Like in the states where I've been operating, the Odisha, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh and all, there are not many influence and pressure from the government also for some of the projects are doing from their side. though CSR talks about CSR regulation talks about it's not a stopgap arrangement. Like our funds are not a stopgap arrangement. Like you have X money with the government, you are missing -1, so we'll put it there. It's not like that. That is assume. It assume we run a good project. So here also we need to discuss with the government official, discuss with the stakeholder, and how need to convince them that it's much more and beyond that. So what I would like to conclude, just corporates have hired the people, they have all good intentions to do, and it is being done also. This is mainstream because of regulations and all, but still we have need to move forward with some good intention, with including all stakeholders to have its best impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajat. You have brought a very important thing, that development cannot address everything. And then when we talk about measurement, we talk about reporting. One thing which becomes very important these days, we talk about sustainability. As I said, sustainability of the business, and during pandemic, sustainability of the profit and the purpose. Lot of time we also do sustainability reporting. And I have with me Monica, who specializes in sustainability. Monica, how does sustainability and transparency and reporting are related to each other? Over to you.
So, thank you. Glad to hear you all and the views on the compliances and everything. So when you say sir, sustainability, so I will say like have been groomed in the mining industry only, manufacturing and mining industry. So what I have learned in my experience, that when we started CSR in 2013, so yes, we started with the compliance and little bit impact around it, and I will say more on the output part of it. But now, as time is coming and it is the need of the hour, we started focusing on the sustainability of the initiatives also. That from the ad hoc approach to the long-term approach and everything. So definitely sustainability is at the core of the CSR programs, if I talk about. And when we talk about sustainability, it's about the long-term approach towards designing such programs which are there good and beneficial for your community and to the business also, as sustainability has a core of social license to operate as well when we talk about the business. So yes, sustainability as the core, and when we design our CSR projects, because we are talking about transparency and reporting. So when we are designing our CSR projects, we definitely take up the theory of change and what will be the target group and what it is going to create and impact the community in terms of the like with the granular approach, as Ashwini ji said, that output, outcome and impact. So this is the focus of, and then yes, that how we exit from the program. That is also important, and the sustainability around it. So when I talk about these sort of things, sustainability, so we focus on the capacity building is the core in all the CSR programs where government has involved, whether it's a public-private partnership project. So, and if there is a beneficiary of some set, so how we can build the capacities of those target groups, and then secondly, spend on the individuals as well for the capacity building and institution building, grassroots institution buildings when we are implementing projects in, especially in the women's empowerment in agriculture area, because that is the area where we invest so much and to sustain as well. So for, I think, investing on the grassroots. And third will be how we are sustaining the things, that is as law has mandated us for the 3 years for the long-term approach. So how in these 3 years framework we can do all the things and create enablers in the community who can take it up and go ahead with the approaches. So how we can invest in the grassroots institutions, and how we can institute something for the community ownership. That is the core of sustainability. So I think for sustainability of the initiatives, we have to invest first for the long-term approach. And then this long-term approach will be different for each and every area. Second, for ensuring this, we have to have a very strong implementing partner and expert partner. So I think merging both of these things, we can, like I say in a nutshell, this sustainability as a community triple C from my approach, that create, collaborate with the community. So this is the sustainability. And when we say transparency and reporting of all the things, so law has mandated us for the impact assessment of the initiatives, and that too mandated for particular sort of area. But I think impact assessment is something which we can do at a regular interval, and we can see what the goals we have set for those particular area. Can we have external assessment from some CSR internal audit or something like that, or concurrent audit, or we can have expert inputs also on the same. So I think that impact assessment is necessary at the company level as well. And I feel that change also, that how we can shift these initiatives gradually when we are convergence is the key for the sustainability. So definitely we should invest with the government, that how we can collaborate with them, converge with them, and then can transfer the things to the community. Empower the community as well to take on the responsibility to run those initiatives in the way which we have envisioned for them. So I just wanted to take one example here, that if we are implementing agriculture projects, so we are just not focused on the input part of it or output part of it. We are creating institution. When we say institution, it is a farmers producer organization, and we have to invest it in the first, that how we can develop the farmers, how they can make the business out of this, and how they can experiment with the newer things and replace the traditional methods. And there are examples where we have created the enablers in the society, and they are taking on the initiatives up. So yes, giving the sustainable solutions to them. So when we say transparency and reporting, so yes, sir, I think for transparency, we need to have a regular checks. And when we say reporting per se, sustainability reporting per se, today we are in the era where we are talking much more about ESG. And this compliance, yes, as Rochak ji said, that yes, this shift is right, that companies are now focusing on it. And in that way, companies are giving freedom to us also, that how we can innovate in a way to implement all the CSR programs in a sustainable and long-term way, because we have to invest. So why not meaningfully? And if we are reporting it, so why not proudly that we have changed so much? And in the sustainability reporting and the integrated reporting, and if I say the separate CSR reporting as well, the impact is it is creating on the society. Because now we are in the era where we will be talking about ESG now from the sustainability shift. And yes, as I will, in the last, I want to also say, when we benchmark all these things, so we have Urvashi ji with us. Now we can align the things with UN SDGs also, that how we are doing it, and can corporate contribute to the government in that way where we are present, like aspirational districts, how we can contribute at it. And then, yes, the GRI reporting is there. We all know that. And yes, for the benchmarking, we can say that there are some of the national things also, national recognitions also, where we can see that how we are standing for the CSR or for our different CSR projects.
Thank you, Monica. Let me inform you that Bureau of Indian Standards has come out with BIS 26001 on the tune of ISO 26000, where now we are going to benchmark. Now, what we are talking about is we are talking about comparing one CSR with other to benchmark it. And BIS 26001, we are going to have stars, 1 to 5 stars. 5 stars means excellent, 1 means okay. And at the same time, we are also going to have a CSR index and other things, lot of other things. My question to all of you, how do you, as an implementer, as a doer, does having a lot of benchmarking makes a lot of sense? Over to you, Ashwani ji.
If you look at the guidelines of ISO 26000 itself, the intent is not benchmarking, and the benchmark is you yourselves. JSW Foundation is one of the first, perhaps the first foundation in the country to be ISO 26000 compliant.
Okay.
We are the first foundation, as I understand, to be ISO 26000 compliant. And typically the way ISO standards are, it's about having your own systems, going through that rigor, that whether you are following those processes or not, and whether you are improving upon them on a continuous basis or not. So you know, it's a rubric which is going to be utilized by me as the CEO of the foundation to see that whether I have moved from place A to place B or not. My position A is going to be dependent upon what could be Rochak's position A. It could be here or it could be here.
Okay.
So therefore, I cannot be comparing myself with Rochak and vice versa.
Okay.
But the point is that, is there an incremental change, positive change happening in where Rochak's organization is today and where it is moving in next 5 years? And similarly, what JSW Foundation is where today and where is it going in those next 5 years? That's the part of benchmarking too. So to me, benchmarking is going to create confusions, and it would create another challenge, you know, of who was better than the other one. So you know, I think it becomes a rat race, and CSR and sustainability is not about rat race. So to me, I think, I mean, this could be my completely personal opinion, but I think benchmarking and saying, okay, you got 5 marks and you got only 3, to me, it's defeating the purpose once again, you know. So that's one part. But yes, as I said in the beginning itself, standards to be adhered to, standards to be followed. So ISO 26000 is the same in any part of the globe. So whether I do something or whether somebody else does that, it means exactly the same. So I think to that extent, benchmark is fine. But having that 1-star, 5-star kind of a rating, I think somehow I'm not, at a personal level, I don't find it any meaning in that. So this is one. But yes, what Monica said, how can we really do CSR aligned to SDGs? For sure. For sure, 169 targets have been set under those 17 SDGs. People very loosely say we are following SDG 1 and SDG so and so. It's not the case. One has to go into the details of those 169 targets. You have to align yourselves to those 169 targets and see which are the ones that are applicable to you as an industry or as a foundation. So at JSW, this is an exercise that we did almost like 4 years back. That these are the 169 targets. We are essentially a steel and energy company. What are those, out of those 169 targets, which are the ones that we are possibly going to be addressing or contributing in our small little humble way? And therefore, then we need to measure that, how step by step, year after year, program by program, we are contributing towards those things or not. The second concept, I think, which is important from standardization point of view is, and where I said, you know, fun is lost. Each company would have its own different material issues. Materiality for one company would be very different from the materiality of another company. And that's where fun is.
Yes,
The
Prime
balance
Minister. Over to you, Rochak. How do you react to that?
You are on mute, Mr.
Yes, I also agree with others' reaction of the sir. Like there should be benchmarking of its own benchmarking. We have been doing ESG scoring is being done. Now all industry are scoring themselves where they are. So same should be applicable here also in this context where we are now today, where we are, because there are variety of industry, variety of business, and variety of area of intervention, everything. So we should just a minute. So we should think in that line, like development goals for a state can be different from other, like CSR bucket or CSR pillars of a different industry can be different. Scope of working can be different. So if we benchmark, then as sir also said, that I'll think like JSW is doing this and they are being scored good, so I should also do this. Then that will miss the essence. Now, what I am trying as a professional, what I am trying to do. So this is one I would look like. This is my reaction to this.
Thank you. Monica?
So yes, sir, I will also go with the forum because benchmarking is something and it depends, as Rochak ji said, that area is different, geography matters a lot and project design matters a lot. I can only see a benefit when this benchmarking gives us the best practices other industries doing, if that is feasible for my area. So that is one. And when we say benchmarking for the CSR per se, because there are n number of things, because some companies, like sometime before, when this scoring was done, some companies were losing just because they were not spending 2%. That doesn't mean it is not impacting the society. So I think when benchmarking per se for learning the best practices, it helps. But for the scoring purpose, just to get the numbers, I think we need to think once again.
In fact, Upadhyay sir, even the concept from where it came, product benchmarking, the ISI standard. So even in ISI, if you buy two, irons, both would be ISI, labeled, but the actual quality and performance of both of them would be very different.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that's the product's attribute. So, two companies may be, manufacturing the same iron, which you use for ironing the clothes. Both would be ISI certified, but their qualities, their attributes would be very different. So similarly, what Rochak said, the granularity and the context would define whether that benchmarking has any significance to it or not.
Thank you. Urvashi, can we see you and for the last comment? Urvashi?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we would like to see you also.
No, I'm just, because the thing is when I put on my video, my audio starts getting
over to
shaky.
you for last comments.
So, no, I think we've had a very rich discussion. So, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we've had a rich discussion. So there's not much else to add other than that, as I said, that I think this will be something which will hopefully evolve, and we will see that sort of mindset shift that I think we are certainly trying for in our work here and the projects we work on. And I think essentially trying to see, how we can really maximize the impact of some of these initiatives, very much like we were able to do in the COVID response. In many elements, we were able to get, private sector, government, CSR, civil society to really come together, startups. So I think we need to find a way to make sure that we do some of this on an ongoing basis, rather than it just being during a crisis of this magnitude. So hopefully we'll have some learnings from this as well, which we can sort of carry forward. And yes, definitely, make the space much stronger. So that's really all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Urvashi. Thank you, Rochak, Monica, and Ashwani ji. I enjoyed it. Hope we had a good time. See you soon. Thank you very much.